Since the dawn of time, or at least until film was invented, movies have been the dominant form of entertainment in the cultural zeitgeist, and television was looked down on. Then, everything changed with the rise of cable, and especially HBO.
Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, Danny Aiello, Arsenio Hall, an Uptown Wingding, Harlem Nights. Coming up next, Peter Falk, Brenda Vaccaro, Jerry Lewis, Emily Lloyd, Bittersweet Romance, Cookie. It's simply the best movies on HBO.
But the real game changer came when they started producing their own original series. For the first time, TV could rival film in scope and quality. Shows like The Sopranos and The Wire redefined what television could be. Serious, mature, and willing to take risks. This kicked off television's golden age, where cable networks suddenly became major players in entertainment. AMC joined the wave with shows like Mad Men and Breaking Bad, proving that television could consistently produce work as strong or sometimes even stronger than what you'd see in movie theaters. TV today often resembles the same trends that overtook Hollywood. Franchises, reboots, spin-offs, and recognizable IP dominate the space. There are still great TV shows such as Severance and The Bear, but the days when original series defined the medium like they were feel like they're fading. Making a show is incredibly difficult, especially making a great show. It's far more work collectively than what would be put into a 2-hour film. Few series can maintain such quality on that scale, and that's why the shows we're going to talk about here today have become so iconic. So welcome to video is extremely important. That's why I got my Star Wars Legos in the background, which are awesome, by the way. Okay, don't make fun of my Star Wars Legos. I mean, come on, I have two Boba Fett's. Before we start, I'd like to advertise movie candles inspired by scents from some of your favorite movies, such as E.T., Jaws, Star Wars, The Shining, Wizard of Oz, and many more. You should definitely check it out. It makes for a great gift. And yeah, it's also just good time to have candles because it's cold. You know, you light a candle in the house and just stay in and get all cozy. And you can get all cozy watching one of your favorite movies while lighting a movie candle that corresponds with it. I've wanted to make this video for a long time. I've been writing it for years at this point. I was working on it years ago and I posted a preview for Patreon, so I canceled the video. Years go by and I think someone suggested I do it on Patreon, and I'm like, yeah, I should probably do that. It would have been cool. I still had all this stuff written down, so I also watched a ton of TV shows that I thought would be, you know, entertaining and fun. TV is a great medium. It's a fantastic medium to tell stories, and it's full of phenomenal acting and writing. Everyone knows I love Mr. Robot. I've talked about it already. I did like 2-3 videos on it, so just Mr. Robot's great. Like mini-series and stuff, I'm not going to talk about those. I'm not going to talk about True Detective, because I love the first season of True Detective, basically nothing else. There are people who say a TV show is just a long movie. That is not true, okay? That is not accurate at all. Dramas have continuing storylines, sure, but they have individual episodes, individual seasons that have to be self-contained and good on their own. A movie has 3 acts, a beginning, middle, and end, and it's meant to be watched kind of all at once, and you just digest it. A TV show isn't like that at all. A TV show goes on for a long time. Characters come and go, things change. Episodes have their own writing and their own arcs, and seasons also have their own arcs. I think a lot of what you see now too is like narrative shows becoming more popular, shows that have continuing storylines, which that wasn't a thing back in the day, back before, let's say, like TiVo and stuff like that, because it was hard to watch every episode in order back in the day. You couldn't watch things at your leisure like you can now. Like, if you want to watch Stranger Things, you could start with episode 1 on Netflix and just go through it, right, in order. Shows can more so be these like expansive stories that go over multiple seasons and people are able to keep up with it. But I think that's a relatively new thing. A show that has a beginning, middle, and end that's like a movie, a storyline builds perfectly to a conclusion. I think Breaking Bad's really one of the best shows in terms of that. I do tend to prefer the kind of narrative dramas to the comedies, the episodic stuff. I mean, that's just me. I like continuing storylines. You know, episodic comedies just generally don't appeal to me. There's a few that I like. My taste in comedy is quite specific, and I lead toward very specific brand of humor. One of the best comedy shows is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Characters in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia are extremely unlikable. They become more crazy as the show goes along. They get more and more acting like lunatics, and that's why I love the show. I mean, that makes it so funny. So here are a few of my favorite episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. The Night Man Cometh, The Dennis System, Char-D Mac Dennis, The Game of Games, The Gang Goes to Jersey Shore, The Gang Gets Analyzed, Mac and Charlie Die. I would say, although these characters are unlikable and crazy and mean and selfish and sexist, especially Dennis is sexist, it's also kind of holding a mirror to the audience and to culture in a way that actually is funny because it's not taking itself seriously. Danny DeVito in this show is fantastic. This is my favorite Danny DeVito anything. Like, any performance I've ever seen, he basically makes the show. I mean, the other guys are funny. Charlie Day's great. Danny DeVito is like the linchpin. And I think he only came in around season 2 or something, which is crazy. I haven't seen much of season 1, honestly, but the stuff with Danny DeVito, like, I usually find myself quoting Danny DeVito from the show. Rum ham, AIDS, I have AIDS, get out of the, you know, that stuff when he has AIDS at the water park.
I got AIDS, we're coming through.
Yeah, sorry, I'm his doctor. My patient's got to get to the front of the line because he has AIDS.
I got the AIDS.
Got it from a gay guy in the 80s.
I'm not gay. I mean, there's two kind of AIDS. There's the vagina AIDS and then the needle-based AIDS. I'm a vagina guy.
So yeah, I guess it took a while to find its footing because, you know, they introduced Danny DeVito, and I do think the characters just become like absolutely cartoonish as it goes along, which that makes it funnier. Like, I prefer that. I prefer like really cartoonish characters to making them like, they don't try to make them likable or relatable at all, which is amazing. It's comedy gold. I think it's hard for them to kind of like knock it out of the park right off the bat. It takes them a while to like kind of figure out their chemistry and find their identity. Speaking of that, The Simpsons, right? Like, that's a prime example. The first season of The Simpsons is horrible. Characters look weird and bad, and then season 2 is great. Season 3 to 12 or whatever, perfect.
It's brilliant. Savagely honest, tender. He has the soul of a poet.
You're very kind.
Excuse me, did something crawl down your throat and die?
It didn't die.
I don't think Simpsons is as good later on. That's just my opinion. I know there's big Simpsons fans out there, but I feel like The Simpsons at its time, though, was basically the peak of pop culture, without a fucking doubt. The references, the people they had on, the writers they had on, like Conan O'Brien, and the Treehouse of Horror episodes, those are all great. Even later on, when I wasn't watching the show in the later seasons, I would still tune in for the Treehouse of Horror episodes because those are always fun. I like seeing what movies they satirize with that. Why would they cancel an iconic show that prints money? Just milk it into the ground, you know? South Park, right, is a show that's been going on a long time, but they have the advantage of staying so relevant because their episodes, everyone knows the way they make episodes, relatively short production cycle from basically the conception to the release on Comedy Central. It's usually a week. It's also just a funny ass show. I think Trey Parker, Matt Stoner, like, I think they're amazing writers. The Book of Mormon is also amazing, because I've seen that, and I love that show, and I love the songs. Much better songs than in Amelia Perez. South Park's funny because it has, like, the relevant stuff, like I was saying, but it's also funny just because they're funny. The Coon and Friends episodes, the Woodland Critter Christmas episode, the Scott Tenorman episode, those aren't about, like, oh, look at the biting commentary or whatever that they have to say about society, because that's, like, what everyone says about South Park. South Park is just fucking funny. That's it. Like, they're funny when they're being satirical. They're funny when they're just being stupid. They're funny when they're just funny no matter what they do. The characters are like these really simplistic cardboard cutouts, they look like, which harkens back to the original short film they made where they basically animated it themselves, and they've just kept to that animation style throughout all these years, which works great for it because it makes you not take what's going on seriously, because it also gets, like, the comedy can be really shocking and dark. How could anyone be upset by it? Because it's like this, like, cartoonish fucking, it's like a circle is the head and then another circle is the body, and that's like how could you be offended by, like, a character that, like, looks like that? It's like it's like the most like, I could draw that. It's like a child doodling, but it's like a really horrible child with a really nasty sense of humor. We follow all sorts of crazy characters over the course of the show. Of course, Stan, Kyle, Cartman, Kenny, Morgan Freeman, Satan. Cartman is a total dickhead. He's always starting shit. Kyle and Stan are the most normal. Kenny is like a running joke, basically. He gets killed most of the time in every episode, as everyone knows. Trey and Matt are good storytellers. On top of being funny, they never go off on tangents, really, in the writing process. They're like, no sort of, like, cheap cutaway gags like Family Guy. South Park is also kind of satirical and clever and smart. I really like the You're Getting Old episode. That's one of the ones where it's a little more dramatic. It's about, like, Stan is, like, depressed and he thinks everything in the world is shit.
Jim Carrey has a bunch of turds in his apartment.
Ugh, Stan, knock it off. But it's just crap. No, they're penguins. Stop it.
There's some funny parts, like they satirize Jack and Jill, which I think many people at the time, when they saw that South Park episode, they didn't realize that Jack and Jill was a real movie because it wasn't out yet. And I'm sure people were like, oh, Trey and Matt are so clever. They satirized Adam Sandler. They created this fake movie called Jack and Jill. And meanwhile, Jack and Jill is a real movie. As far as comedy, there's one more thing I want to talk about, and it's more of a reality show. People, I think, would be disappointed if I didn't, like, talk about it, because I mentioned it in the Patreon video that I made a long time ago. Basically, the show is called Documental. I've only seen the first 3 seasons at this point. All these comedians get together in a room, and they have to make each other laugh. And if you laugh, you lose. The humor of the show comes from them trying not to laugh. And they do these crazy things to make each other laugh that are just hysterical. It's not in English, it's all Japanese. It's a Japanese show. The show is hosted by Hitoshi Matsumoto, a famous Japanese comedian. He's really got a charisma and he's funny, and I love the opening of the show. When it starts, you're like, oh, this show's gonna be epic as fuck. The thing about trying not to laugh, it makes you want to laugh more. Those are some of the funniest parts of this show, like watching this guy's facial expressions trying not to laugh. Sometimes they just end up laughing for no reason. After season 1, they introduce a point system, so people get points each time they make someone else laugh. This encourages people to play offensively, which makes it more fun to watch.
お前それは攻撃してることになれへんねんぞ。むしろ攻撃されてんねんぞ。分かってるか?
They introduce other things in later seasons, such as Zombie Time in season 3. People who lost the game get to come back and make the competitors laugh.
テディベア連れてきたから テディベアテディベアおいで大丈夫恥ずかしくないからおいでおいでおいでテディベアおいでかわいいかわいい
If it seems like it's your kind of thing, definitely give it a try. It's not for everyone, but I think it's just such a unique show that I have to recommend it. And it's so funny. You got so many great laughs out of me. You can watch it on Amazon Prime.
This is.
So that's it for comedy. I actually talked a while, longer than I thought I would, but I really wanted to talk about the dramas here. The dramatic TV shows with the epic stories that go over seasons and so on. Ready for some controversy? Game of Thrones, before it got really bad, people would say it got bad after season 5. There's people who would say that. Season 1 to 4 is like, you know, absolutely tremendous, but 5 and 6 are good too. I think 5 is really flawed. I think that's a very flawed season. Still, it's got some good episodes, like Hard Home is in season 5. Season 6 has the finale, which is one of the best episodes. Yeah, but season 1 to 4 of Game of Thrones is simply just perfect television. Like the world building, the characters, and the politics of it and everything feels so much more realistic and more like a medieval show, more so than like a fantasy show. I think they really stripped down the fantasy elements. Lord of the Rings, they lean into the fantasy. Works great for Lord of the Rings. I mean, that might be why Rings of Power just feels like dated and boring. We have Game of Thrones now where the characters don't feel invincible. Game of Thrones, it just really had a strong source material, especially at the start. They actually had those books and they adapted them pretty rigidly, because I've been reading the first book now, pretty much the first season, the book, with a few minor things changed, but they definitely kind of veered off from the books as it went along, and that's when it got really bad. I think later on they were trying to cater to more demographics and younger people, and they cut down a lot of the violence and the sexual stuff. You really felt like anyone could die, and that was one of the selling points of the series initially when they pitched it to HBO. You know, they were like, this is a show where anyone could die, and HBO loved that, and for some reason they just abandoned that. At the end of the day, you have 4 really great seasons of television, maybe 6 if you want to give it some credit. I like seasons 5 and 6. I think those are fine. You really can say it's groundbreaking television, Game of Thrones. It changed everything. It changed the way we looked at television in terms of production value with budgets. They could have these big set pieces and all these big actors in them. And it also just had this great, mature writing, at least in the first 4 seasons.
You are my queen. You are my queen.
But I kind of just wanted to mention Game of Thrones. I've talked about Game of Thrones so much already, and there's other stuff to talk about. Like, I don't want to spend too much time talking about it. Let's talk about this shit. You ready? You ready, Mama Luke? So The Sopranos follows Tony Soprano, a New Jersey mob boss, as he struggles to balance the demands of his criminal empire with his family life. The show gives us a glimpse into organized crime and how it operates in a more modern-day setting than we're used to. Goodfellas is, of course, in the 70s. Godfather is in the 40s. Sopranos is around early 2000s, and it's about kind of how the mob has become not as powerful as they once were during the age of Prohibition, which is what Boardwalk Empire covers, another HBO show, which we're going to get to on this list. It is on my list. At that time, the mob was obviously very powerful because they controlled the liquor trade. Fingerprinting and cameras and that sort of thing made it much more difficult to do crime in general for these people. And that's kind of what you see in The Sopranos is, well, he says in The Sopranos he felt like he missed the best of being a mobster, and he's got like the scraps of it. At its core, Sopranos is a character study about one man named Tony Soprano, who's played by James Gandolfini, star of the incredible Burt Wonderstone. Gandolfini is of course phenomenal in this role, a very challenging role. It took a lot out of him, but it really is one of the greatest gangster characters ever written, rivaling many other iconic gangster characters like Marlon Brando in The Godfather, Don Corleone. Tony as a character seeks therapy to help with his panic attacks, and this offers us a rare glimpse into the emotional vulnerabilities of such a powerful figure like a mob boss. David Chase said he didn't know if he was making a tragedy or a comedy, and maybe it's both. The series blends the brutal realities of organized crime with intimate family dynamics, exploring themes of loyalty, power, identity, and the American dream. Unlike traditional mob narratives, The Sopranos uses long-form TV to deeply explore its characters over time, setting it apart from its cinematic inspirations like Goodfellas and The Godfather. David Chase, the creator of the show, originally wanted Sopranos to be a movie, and thank God it wasn't, because it would have just blended in with all these other mob movies. But as a TV show, it stands out as something truly unique. A huge part of the show is being an Italian American, and I think a lot of people who watch and love this show and relate to it and say it's the greatest show ever made are Italian American people. It feels so authentic, the way the characters talk and behave, and like I said in my Gotti review, right, how they don't eat food in that movie. In The Sopranos, they're always eating. There's a deli that they always go to, and they always go to the back where it's obviously a front, but you know, they surround themselves with food constantly, and there's constantly food references. When they're in the middle of nowhere, Paulie offers Chris a Tic Tac. That's more food than you see in the entire of Gotti, that one Tic Tac. The Sopranos, it's about so many things. It's a character study about this mobster. It's a family show about the interplay between all these different family members. The mom and Carmela and Tony's kids and Uncle Junior. And there's also this unpredictability, these gruesome deaths, these characters that you like over the seasons getting killed, and it's shocking, but it works really well usually. It feels very established very well. The best episodes of The Sopranos are like, obviously the Pine Barrens episode. Amour Fou? Is that how you say that? Amour Fou? Amour Fou? Season 3, episode 12, that one. I like that that's a great episode. The college episode of Sopranos is great. Funhouse is a great episode. Long-term parking. I like the finale. I think it's fine. It's an ending that fits the show, and it makes me think. And I definitely have my own interpretation of what happened, which I don't want to say in case people haven't seen the show. I think the ending's fine. I don't think it's something that ruins the show, like Game of Thrones. That ending's terrible. It almost ruins that whole show. For some people, it just ruins it, which is fair. The Sopranos, it isn't that kind of show that has this strict plot structure, like kind of Breaking Bad does. And to be fair, it was made kind of before that became like a popular thing. Sopranos, you could honestly watch episodes on their own, and I don't know if it works great, but it works. It's fine. The characters are pretty consistent. You know, in that way, it kind of feels like an older show. Usually every season would have like the villain of the season that Tony would have to defeat in some way. That's something that feels like kind of like an early 2000s thing. Like, I don't think maybe you see it now, but Breaking Bad kind of has like consistent villains over multiple seasons, like Gus and stuff. Nancy Marchand as Livia Soprano. She is just an excellent character. She passed away in real life, and the show had to get rid of her, write her off, basically, and that was a shame, because she really was a huge part of the show, and I felt the show was missing something once she left. It's still a good show after, of course. It's still great. It still has great episodes. I felt like that's what the show was about. It was about, like, Tony versus his mother, and then they had to kind of steer away from that, but, the show is still great. I really love the opening of The Sopranos. I think it's great. I was in New Jersey earlier this year, and I drove by, like, a lot of the stuff you see in the opening, which is funny, like the water towers and the toll booth, of course. The production value is really high for a TV show, especially back then. It basically looks like a movie, and it's inspired by, especially the lighting is very inspired by The Godfather, and you can see that, especially later on. It got darker thematically, but I think also visually it just gets darker in terms of the contrast and the use of shadows and stuff. You really do notice that as it goes along. It looks a lot more cinematic, I think, later. Just the whole thing's shot on film, which that also makes it look great. I really like the angle about therapy in this show. And I also like the show's take on dreams and the way dreams are absurd and bizarre and don't really make sense. But really, that's just like another element of The Sopranos that makes it unique and makes it stand out from all these other mob shows and movies that come out. A little more introspective, and it's got like this, these elements of like, let's explore his inner psyche. It's about that generational change and how the views of mobsters have changed, and also society's view on mobsters have changed. They're not as cool as they once were. Because, you always think those badass gangsters in the 40s, they had the trench coats, Tommy guns, but that's not like how it is now. Now it's just like a schlubby guy in his pool. All these old school traditions that they used to have usually butts heads and causes conflict with the characters. Explores a lot of themes of racism and homophobia. It's all really interesting. It's also really funny. The stuff of Vito being gay, that whole storyline in The Sopranos is just so fucking funny. Like when Vito gets caught and he's in the fucking leather biker's outfit, unbelievably funny. And then the stuff that happens after the meeting with all the guys.
So weight loss.
AIDS? Nobody's got AIDS. I don't want to hear that word in here again.
Nobody's got AIDS. Phil Leotardo, like, he married my cousin, he should fucking die.
And in light of recent humiliations, it's an honor to be joined by men. And not ass cornholing cocksuckers like married my cousin. He should fucking die.
Whoa, Phil. Take it easy. Phil, you know the one makes you emotional.
And then Tony on the phone, like, trying to call him, and the phone's, like, on the side of the road.
Put Vito on a phone, asshole.
Fuck you, motherfucker.
Yeah, that's right. Telephone tough guy. Put Vito on a phone.
Hang on a second.
Where'd you find the phone? Hello? Hello? Oh, you motherfucker.
It's funny, but it's also just like, how do mob guys deal with, like, them finding out that one of their guys is gay? Like, how do they deal with that? Because you know the kinds of people that they are. They're not good. That's another great thing about The Sopranos. They don't try to paint them as good people. And the second you start to think that they're kind of good people, they do something horrible. They're fucking criminals. So next up on my long list of great TV shows is another HBO show called The Wire. It's a groundbreaking crime drama that explores the interconnected institutions of Baltimore. The show examines the systemic issues within the city through the perspectives of law enforcement, drug dealers, politicians, educators, and journalists. It's more than a cop show, it's more than a crime show. It's a show about our world and how it operates. I love The Wire. It's such a great show, and that might sound like a meme, but it's true. The Wire gives equal weight to both sides, the police as well as the criminals. Baltimore is not just a setting in this show, it's a character in its own right, exploring the systemic racism and economic disparity that perpetuates cycles of poverty and crime. It presents a richly detailed and empathetic depiction of marginalized communities. There are also many black characters within law enforcement, such as Kima Greggs, Bunk Moreland, Lester Freeman, who's fucking awesome.
Yo, this the hi-hat. Say what? Y'all still on car out? I want some of that pepper steak.
And of course, Daniels, played by Lance Riddick. Rawls is a great character too. He's so funny and intimidating. Meanwhile, on the streets, you got Idris Elba. You got Idris Elba as Stringer Bell. Brings chills down my spine, this character. So intimidating. Like, I don't want to say anything of what happens to him. But even the other characters on the streets, like Omar, is amazing. He's this ruthless gunman who operates by his own code and robs drug dealers. If anyone knows anything about The Wire, they know Omar. Bubbles is one of my favorite characters. He's a homeless heroin addict and informant whose story is one of redemption, ultimately. Marlo Stanfield is another great character who shows up a little bit later. The first season's basically about the drug trade. It's about focusing on the Baltimore police and investigating the Barksdale drug operation. That's really the focus. of season 1, and it's very much like a traditional cop show in season 1, and it's great, and it seems like people really like that first season, and it introduces a lot of key players, and it's got a lot of great exploration of the characters and stuff. But season 2 takes like a completely different route, and it focuses on the docks and focusing on a lot of mostly white characters, which was, I mean, they still focus on black characters in that season, but it's not as much as season 1, and I guess that was kind of a reaction to season 1 kind of doing so poorly in the ratings, because it's a show with mostly black people dealing with not very fun things, dealing with things that black people actually have to deal with, like fucking poverty and crime. Season 3 kind of focuses on more about the politics of everything, and it feels kind of more grander scale. Season 4 focuses on the education system mostly. This season sort of explores how young people are indoctrinated into becoming drug dealers as like teenagers and stuff. A lot of them come from broken homes. You know, some of them get out of that lifestyle, but a lot of them don't. And you see how that happens. You know, you see how that sort of person is created. Then there's season 5. I was kind of mixed on season 5 at first. I do like it, just because it's weird what it focuses on. It focuses basically on like journalism. What are some key episodes of The Wire? Middle Ground is a great one. Season 3 episode 11, Final Grades. Season 4 episode 13, Misgivings, Clarifications. It wasn't a rating success, like I said, but it became really important to the city of Baltimore because they filmed in Baltimore a lot for this show, and many people in Baltimore just really appreciated the show and what it was kind of highlighting, not just about that city, but about America in general. Even though it struggled in the viewership, the influence of Baltimore kept it alive and kept it going for as long as it did. The fact that it even made it 5 seasons is crazy, because it was nowhere near as successful as a show like The Sopranos. I mean, it's heavy, yeah, but it's not as like kind of methodical as this show. This show has so many characters in it. It's almost like Game of Thrones, like that level. This show is so culturally significant. It's just like regarded by everyone as like one of the greatest TV series of all time, and the way it stands out from just like an infinite catalog of crime cop shows. Next is a series. It's only 2 seasons, but it's quite good. I rewatched the whole thing, but the show is called Knick, and it's a series created by Steven Soderbergh. It's directed by Steven Soderbergh. Every episode, it's kind of like Mr. Robot, and it's basically following a doctor in the early 1900s, played by Clive Owen, Dr. Thackeray, who is based on a real person. And the show follows his trials and tribulations being a doctor in the early 1900s when they didn't know anything about medicine or anything. Well, they did know some things, but not nearly as much as we know now. The show opens on a pretty brutal surgery scene where they're giving a C-section to a woman. The show captures the primitive and often disturbing medical practices of the time. The struggle to advance medicine with such limited technology is sort of the point of the show, and the many ethical dilemmas that stem from that and the desperation that causes. The Knick is unflinchingly graphic, and it's very bloody and gruesome, which I love about it. It isn't just bloody, it also shows the unsanitary conditions of the time. It was pretty dirty, and everything was divided basically by class, and the hospital actually is like a microcosm of like society at the time. Like all the different, you know, races and genders and stuff. But also Andre Holland, who plays Dr. Algernon Edwards, is one of the best characters in the show. This is the first time I saw that actor, even before he was in Moonlight. And he's great in the show. He's one of the best characters, a black surgeon whose talent is undermined by the racial prejudices of the time. Eve Hewson as Lucy Elkins, a naive nurse who becomes entangled with Dr. Thackeray, is a great character as well. Jeremy Bobb as Herman Barrow, Chris Sullivan as Tom Cleary, who worked with Steven Soderbergh on the movie, what's that movie called? Presence. Yeah, that's right. I knew it was something with a P. I'm like, Poltergeist? Possession? No. Kara Seymour as Sister Harriet is one of the best characters as well. Sister Harriet mainly helps women throughout the series, and women were very undervalued in medical fields, of course, and often men didn't understand as much about female bodies as women did. Jim Norton makes a cameo in this show as well, which was great. So yeah, Steven Soderbergh directed every single episode, bringing a unique cinematic style to the show with natural lighting, handheld camera work. Also adding to that atmosphere is Cliff Martinez, who composed the score for the Knick, which is a haunting electronic score, electronic music in a show set in 1900s New York. That's pretty awesome. Unheard of. And it's one of those experimental choices that really works for the show. It wouldn't be the same show without it. The surgery scenes at times are really hard to watch. They're gruesome. And gore doesn't even bother me necessarily, but in this show, there are some pretty hard scenes to watch. There's a lot of long takes, and yeah, like I said, that camera work was great. I think Soderbergh often did his own camera work. I wanted to mention at the end of season 2, there was this big scene with Chris Sullivan. He's sort of in a confessional booth, confessing to a priest something major that happened in the plot that I won't spoil. They were struggling with how to film this scene, and they didn't have enough time to film the scene. They were losing hours or something. They had to spend it on other things. So Soderbergh literally said, okay, Chris Sullivan, go in the confessional booth. And it's just like Chris Sullivan sticking his legs out of the confessional booth, and there's a curtain, and that's like all you see, right? Yeah, it's a wide shot here, wide shot there. And he says, okay, that's good. That's the scene. He just dubbed in all his dialogue later on with the priest. That simple way he filmed that whole scene. It was quick, it was efficient. He had to solve a problem on the set, but it also works when you watch the series. You're not thinking about like, oh, they didn't have money to film this part or whatever. That's not what you're thinking. It just works. And I hope that like stays with filmmakers. Sometimes less is more. Sometimes simplifying it makes a scene better. The Knick aired on Cinemax, which, if you don't know, Cinemax are basically known for airing softcore pornos. So I don't know what made them want to produce a Steven Soderbergh series. Maybe it's them trying to get into prestige television at the time. But yeah, that ensemble cast just like elevate the show. They're all really great actors, and yeah, it doesn't shy away from any of the harsh subject matter of the time. The Knick often explores relationships that characters genuinely desire, even when those desires clash with social norms. Like Cornelia Robertson, for instance, is engaged to a wealthy person, but harbors real affection for Dr. Edwards, but can't marry Dr. Edwards, obviously, because he's black. Burry appears to be, a fitting match for Lucy. She's more devoted to Dr. Thackeray. Tom Cleary clearly has an attachment to Sister Harriet from the very start, but she's a nun. So every character is very well realized and very complex, whether they're a man or a woman or black or white, or like poor status or high status, it doesn't matter. They're all very complex, and the world of the show is very believable. And yeah, I love it. I love the surgery scenes. I love the efficiency of the cinematography. I love the music. I love the acting. I just think it's a stunning show. It's fantastic. Let's talk about Boardwalk Empire. Boardwalk Empire takes place in Atlantic City in the 1920s, during the time of Prohibition, and follows Nucky Thompson, played by Steve Buscemi, as he builds his criminal empire. It's a very historically accurate show as far as most of the characters are based on people from real life. Even Nucky Thompson is based on a real person. I love Boardwalk Empire, and I mentioned before in a video that Boardwalk Empire didn't reach the heights of many other great TV shows. I think I was more referring to kind of the popularity of it. This could have been a really successful show, something like The Sopranos, and they just like messed it up. It just wasn't like popular, or I don't know why. Scorsese directed the pilot, and like there's all these great actors in it. Steve Buscemi is Nucky Thompson, Michael Stolberg is Arnold Rothstein. The Charlie Cox character is actually awesome. He's like one of my favorite characters. Michael Shannon is Agent Van Holden. That was like, to me, that's one of his defining roles, Michael Shannon. He's such like a weird character. Michael K. Williams, Stephen Graham is Al Capone. I love him in the show. Jack Houston is Richard Harrow, is one of my favorite characters. Richard Harrow is a war veteran with half of his face destroyed, so he has this mask that he puts on that looks really creepy. And he's just such a cool character. Kelly MacDonald plays Margaret, who is a great character. She adds a lot of humanity to Nucky Thompson's character. Jeffrey Wright shows up a little bit later, season 4 and 5, and he's definitely one of the strongest parts of season 4 and 5. One of the strongest antagonist characters is Bobby Cannavale as Gyp Rossetti. He's probably my favorite villain in the show.
Fucking breadstick in a bow tie.
Steve Buscemi as Nucky Thompson. To me, he's like the least interesting character, but he's like the viewpoint character. He's like the character you follow throughout the entire show. His brother, Eli Thompson, he's great in the show. I love Shea Wiggum in the show. Yeah, it's just a lot of great performances, a lot of great characters. The production value of the whole show is insane. Like, they built a whole fucking boardwalk for this show. A set that's a boardwalk with green screen and shit. Like, that's how much money they put into the show. I really like the pilot of Boardwalk Empire. I think that's like one of the best episodes of the whole show. Now let's talk about Deadwood. Deadwood is a Western drama set in the lawless gold rush town of Deadwood, South Dakota in the 1870s before it became part of the United States. There's a lot of struggle for power in the town, and yeah, this show is phenomenal. It's HBO's Western. It's like, what if The Sopranos was a Western and had like those sort of characters and whatever, like the Ian McShane character. Al Swearengen's like this nasty saloon owner who's a slimy businessman. In the beginning, you basically think it's going to be like a standoff between this Ian McShane, Al Swearengen character and Timothy Oliphant's character who plays the sheriff, Sheriff Bullock. You think it's going to go that way, and there's some times where they definitely conflict and they fight. It becomes about something more. It becomes about the town and all those people. It's like so all-encompassing, like The Wire and The Sopranos were. David Milch, who created the show and wrote the show, the writing's excellent. The dialogue is so good. It's so fucking good, the dialogue, because it's like this period-specific dialogue, and it's so intricate, but it feels really authentic. I've never seen any Western anything except from like some Coen Brothers movies and stuff like that, a few other movies, but like the dialogue in this show is so good. David Milch would often keep rewriting the scripts shortly before they started filming. Very specific dialogue, so rewriting stuff like right before they filmed. Like, okay, well, hold on. David Milch is a legendary television writer and producer. He's known for a lot of stuff. NYPD Blue, Hill Street Blues. Kind of where he honed in is those more morally complex characters that he explores and stuff like that. I think that's where he perfected that kind of writing. It's only 3 seasons, I think, because it was so expensive to make. Guest appearances like Sarah Paulson and Brian Cox. Then, yeah, also all the horses and all the extras and like all that stuff, the costumes. It must have been crazy. Great production value throughout the whole show and great characters and great dialogue. Like, I love Mr. Wu.
Cocksucker! Yeah, glad I taught you that fucking word. These are whites, huh? White cocksucker!
Basically, every scene with him talking to Al Swearengen is the funniest thing in the world. The only words he understands are his name and cocksucker.
White cocksucker! These 2 white cocksuckers? Who the fuck did it? Who, you ignorant fucking Who? Who stole the fucking dope? Cocksucker! Oh, Jesus.
Ian McShane is just remarkable in this show. I loved Keith Carradine as Wild Bill. He was great. I wish that character was in the show more. At the same time, it makes sense. He's basically only in the first few episodes, but based on a real person in history. The show also features many strong women characters, which is always important. Trixie, the prostitute, is a great character, and her relationship with Al Swearengen is sort of interesting because he does abuse her, but he also cares about her, and she sort of cares about him. He almost kind of protects her. Of course, Molly Parker as Alma Garrett fantastic in the show as well, and she's a very intelligent character. She kind of starts a lot of conflict, but it's also kind of out of her control. You feel bad for her because she's just trying to live her life, and all these people are coming after her for her money and her land. Robin Weigert as Calamity Jane has a very overbearing personality. It's also sort of heartbreaking and touching the way this alcoholic woman stumbles around and cares about the town. That's like what's great about a TV show. Like everything feels so fleshed out. The town feels so real, and all these people walking around feel so believable. We see each aspect of the town, like the E.B. Farnham Hotel, which was a real hotel. We actually get to see like many of the characters stay in the hotel, like the Brian Cox character and George Hurst. Brad Dourif as Doc Cochran is great in the show as well. He's the town doctor, and he's a very more sympathetic character. He actually cares about people. There's of course a famous scene where Al undergoes a graphic surgery for urinary blockage.
I'm gonna pass this through your penis up into your bladder, Al, and I'm gonna say this to you once. I'm sorry for how it hurts.
Anyone ever comes to you like, I wish I was born in the Old West. I could have been like a cowboy and could have gone to the saloon and whatever. Will people tell you that? Just show them this scene from Deadwood. Show them the penis surgery scene.
I'm gonna put this instrument back inside you and clear that cocksucker you've been making progress with, and we are not gonna cut you.
And we'll see what they want to say after that. The Old West really sucked. If you got anything from this show, it should be like the Old West sucked and it was dirty and they treated everyone horribly. And yeah, it's good. It's Deadwood. It's dead good. Deadwood, dead good.
Pain or damage don't end the world, or despair, or fucking beatings. The world ends when you're dead. Until then, you got more punishment in store. Stand it like a man and give some back.
Now, let's talk about The Shield. So this is from Kurt Sutter, who also did Sons of Anarchy. It's a good series, Sons of Anarchy, but I did think The Shield was better. It follows a corrupt anti-gang police unit in Los Angeles, and there are many illegal activities. They're led by Vic Mackey, played by, of course, The Thing from the Fantastic Four. Michael Chiklis is fantastic in the show, and he just has like his character, you know, because he's like this badass crooked cop. He just has like a lot of cool lines where he looks at the camera and says something fucking cool.
Good cop and bad cop left for the day. I'm a different kind of cop.
Who hit me?
Jesus Christ.
Turn the other cheek.
He could turn both cheeks. He'd still be talking out of his ass. Yeah, well, lucky. Come on, Captain. You know how these rich pricks are. He's probably got his face snorkel deep in some broad snatch. It means you just stepped onto an entirely new playing field. For your sake, I hope you know the rules of the game. You've lost your leverage with Lem. And your ex-wife's pussy tastes like sweet butter.
They explore the systemic issues as well that the Los Angeles Police Department faces, similar to the things explored in The Wire. But again, it's also just more of a different take. This is more of just like a straightforward cop show with a bit of a harder edge to it. For a cable show, it is pretty graphic. There is like nudity and violence and that stuff. Very complex characters that are multidimensional. Obviously, Vic Mackey, he challenges that traditional heroic protagonist cop that you usually see in these sort of shows, and that's what makes it interesting. Walton Goggins as Detective Shane is also a terrific character, and I loved him in this show. For me, it's one of the best performances I've seen from Walton Goggins. Benito Martinez as Captain David Aceveda, who constantly butts heads with Vic Mackey and his corruptness, constantly trying to get him. People who show up for like little, not cameos, they show up for like one season. Glenn Close is in season 4, and Forrest Whitaker is in season 5, and Anthony Anderson as Antoine Mitchell as well. He's great, and yeah, it's just a great cop show. I recommend it. It's got a great finale, one of the best finales. Next is... what's next here? Mad Men. So, I didn't watch Mad Men when it came out. I watched it a little later. So many just great episodes and funny scenes and whatever. Obviously, the famous fight scene in The Office is great and unexpected.
I know cooler heads should prevail, but am I the only one who wants to see this?
But yeah, there's just a lot of great dialogue and characters, and a lot of people became famous from the show. Christina Hendricks is great. So yeah, Mad Men was created by Matthew Weiner. It's set in the 1960s and focuses on the lives of ad executives working at a fictional ad agency, Sterling Cooper. It explores the themes of the American dream, also this sort of idea of identity and reinventing yourself, because Don Draper is actually hiding his true identity from people. Like a lot of the other shows we talked about, it's about the shifting gender roles and social roles in the workplace, how women were taking more of a stance and it wasn't as male dominated. I mean, it still was male dominated, but you see these women characters fight for their spot, like Joan, played by Christina Hendricks, who comes across as a very strong and very confident woman. Peggy Olson, played by Elizabeth Moss, who is a very smart and capable person. Don really attaches himself to her because he sees her potential, even though she's a woman at the time. You know, Don is not a perfect character, but you see that he's also just a product of his environment. Betty Draper, played by January Jones, is also a really great character, and she gives a really great performance in the show, as well as their daughter, played by Kiernan Shipka. She's actually quite good, and her character in the show is pretty complex. Also, Roger Sterling, played by John Slattery, charismatic and humorous executive. When I see him as Tony Stark's dad, I just think of Roger Sterling. And there's other characters, of course. It really is one of those shows that helped usher in that golden age of television, and it set a standard for character-driven storytelling. John Hamm as Don Draper is widely considered as one of the greatest television performances of all time. He's terrific. One of the directors who directed some of the episodes is Matt Shakman, who of course directed Fantastic Four: First Steps. So that's great. The finale, which is one of the best episodes of Mad Men, for sure. I love the finale. The finale is a masterpiece, so definitely watch Mad Men. Okay, so I guess that's everything except Breaking Bad, created by Vince Gilligan for AMC and premiered in 2008, filmed and set in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It is a neo-Western crime drama character study that started with a modest viewing and ended up becoming a cultural phenomenon. By the finale, it was one of the most watched cable shows in American history, and Walter White was known all over the world.
Say my name. Heisenberg. You're goddamn right.
Rotten Tomatoes in 2023 ranked it the #1 TV series of the last 25 years. I covered it in a video many years ago where I sound like I'm 10 years old. That video is completely outdated. Don't watch it unless you want to hear me sound like an 8-year-old. You could find my original video somewhere. I probably took it down because of copyright. That's usually why my videos are taken down. People think I'm like ashamed of my videos or something. It's usually just copyright. Basically, the story of Breaking Bad is you see this high school teacher, he gets cancer, and he becomes a meth kingpin. He uses his chemistry skills from science class to make meth and make money for himself and his family. Basically, the story of Mr. Chips turning into Scarface.
I really did pitch it to the companies involved as Mr. Chips turns into Scarface. When I first sold it to Sony Television and AMC network back in the day. The wonderful thing about TV shows is how collaborative they are and how organic the storytelling can be if you don't get in the way of it, if you don't try to, or if you listen to the characters and let them tell you where they want to go. And I came to understand, I forget exactly when, probably a couple seasons ago, that this gentleman, Walter White, was not transformed from something he was not into something that he now is, so much as it seems to me now, although it did not seem to me then, that this darkness that resides within him now was probably always there, and yet he was too inactive, too much a victim of inertia, too scared to act on those things.
A clear point A to point B arc, which is not very common for TV because it's so complicated and such a big canvas to tell a story, but it's actually why it's an engaging show, because it feels like it's going somewhere. It isn't like this 10-season long thing that's dragged out like Walking Dead. Sure, there's like spin-offs. They just made spin-offs if they wanted to continue the story. Like the subtext about changing, and like his first speech of the show that he gives to his students is like, chemistry is about change and whatever, and then you see him change over the course of the show. It's brilliant writing.
Chemistry is the study of matter, but I prefer to see it as the study of change. That's all of life, right? I mean, it's the constant, it's the cycle, it's solution, dissolution, just over and over and over. It is growth, then decay, then transformation. It is fascinating, really.
The subtext is very clear throughout the whole show. The use of mirrors and reflections and use of like these two different personalities. There's the Walt personality and the Heisenberg personality, and the way the show balances the two, and how eventually Heisenberg kind of takes over the course of the 5 seasons. We see Walt change more and more and become more and more of a bad guy. People have even compared it to the 5 stages of cancer. One of the best characters is Jesse Pinkman, played by Aaron Paul. Everyone who knows Aaron Paul knows him from Breaking Bad. It is such a great role, and you really like his character. They were going to write Jesse out in the beginning, and I'm glad they didn't do that, because he ends up becoming one of the most likable parts of the show. He undergoes a transformation kind of like Walt, but it's like the inverse. He starts out as like a loser shithead and then becomes like actually a good guy. There was a point when I was watching this show where I was just obsessed with it. Binge watch episode. I just love the show so much. Like, it's so good at like doing that A to B story, telling that story of Walter White transforming, and there's no other show that really has that consistent level of writing except for Better Call Saul, which is also Vince Gilligan. Everything in Breaking Bad, everything that's set up pays off at some point, and that's what makes it so cool. Skylar is a great character in the show. Anna Gunn is terrific. She's also great in Deadwood. It's a funny series, basically a dark comedy through most of it. The show has just amazing antagonist characters as well that you really remember. I think that elevates the show, like the twins, Tuco, Gus in season 3 to 4 is just one of the best antagonist villains ever in anything. The neo-Nazis in season 5, of course, Jesse Plemons. Todd is like a sociopath. He doesn't care about what he's doing at all. Like, he just doesn't care. Killing people or torturing people. In season 3, Skylar's character really becomes more vicious and sort of breaks bad. She has an affair, and we learn about her past and those sort of things. And we also see Jesse become more likable. He thinks Walt cares about him, but maybe he does, but he's also sort of manipulating him. And does Walt really care about Jesse? I mean, that's like kind of what the show's about. Is Walt using Jesse? Does he care about him? The Fly episode, some people don't like that because it's like one of the only episodes that doesn't tie into the overarching plot. Like, you can skip that one. But I do like The Fly. It's, of course, directed by Rian Johnson, who went on to direct the Ozymandias episode, which is the best episode of the entire series. And then he, of course, directed the best Star Wars movie in the entire series. Season 4 just has, like, that constant tension. It's, like, constant. You sit on the edge of your seat and you're like, I have to watch the next episode. Okay, I have to watch the next episode. No show was ever able to stick the landing as well as Breaking Bad. Just absolutely perfect. And its legacy continued with El Camino, the movie on Netflix, which was good. I enjoyed it. Better Call Saul. That is another one we're going to talk about here, because, yeah, I love Better Call Saul. I get some people don't like it. It's way more of a lawyer show. Also, being a prequel to Breaking Bad, you see some characters show up. There's a lot of new characters that are also equally as compelling, like Kim Wexler. It's just a different show. It's slower paced. They know the audience is already invested in the world of Breaking Bad, so the writers could kind of afford to take more time exploring all these, I don't know, everything in the show just feels more organic. All the emotions are very earned in the show, and it's just awesome. Like, the build up to everything is so great. That's why I like the slow pace. It like builds up to things that are really cool and really good episodes. I love the episodes that explored all the other characters from Breaking Bad. Mike Ehrmantraut, the episodes about him. Mike is great in the show, and Gus is great when he shows up. I don't want to spoil too much of Better Call Saul, because I feel like a lot of people haven't seen it, and it's really underappreciated. I mean, Mike shows up pretty early on, so I can't say, like, Mike shows up. And Mike's great. Like, I love the episode in season 1 where they focus on Mike's, like, backstory with him and his son. Michael Mando as Nacho Varga. He's famous for playing the guy in Far Cry 3. Tony Dalton as Lalo, this psychopathic Mexican cartel hitman guy. Michael McKean as Jimmy's brother. Chuck McGill is fantastic as well. But yeah, there's a lot more cameos from Breaking Bad that show. I don't know, man. I love Better Call Saul. It's almost as good as Breaking Bad to me, and the fact that it like separates itself by being kind of its own thing makes me like it even more. It's great. I think that's good. I've talked for a long time. I feel like I could say more about Better Call Saul, but it's also like, I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it. It's probably one of the newer shows I've talked about here. Check out any of these shows that I recommended. Documental, It's Always Sunny. Watch one episode, see if you like it. I mean, there's a few shows I talked about that I think are a little more niche and maybe you haven't heard of, like The Knick or Documental. Check out Movie Candles on Etsy. Yeah, long day.